touched on a little bit of narcotics. So when you talk about this whole drug world, I'm kind of curious. We've learned over time that the cartels are pretty damn smart. At least they seem that way. They've got some strategy. They're strategic. They plan. They coordinate, and they pull off pretty incredible missions, if you will. But so I'm curious. Did they plan for marijuana to be legalized, and that's why they've what appears to be they've switched to fentanyl is kind of like their main piece, or what are your thoughts
Um,
on that?
so a few things. I'm all for pot legalization. Legalize it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It makes you feel funny. In my career, I never had to fight a violent weed head. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's good. It makes you. It's good for
I'd say a
sleeping.
drunk person's worse than a high person, right?
I know. So don't get me wrong. I'm all about it. I burned acres of it during my time working. I arrested people that were later prosecuted for it, and it is what it is. It was a weird time. Um, when legalization took place of marijuana in California, the cartels took two approaches. Number one, they invested in the legal weed market, which they were already invested in at an early start because a lot of the illegal grows that then turned into legal grows were
Cartel.
under the protection and or had some sort of interest related to cartel activity. There was recently a whole they recently found a bunch of them in California, a bunch of cartel grows, producing high quality marijuana, under the under the noses of the federal government, the U.S. Now they've done that in public lands as well. There's a guy, John Norris, who used to be a wildlife game guy, and he discovered a lot of these grows as well in public lands in California and stuff like that. So they didn't stop growing weed. They just figure out how to diversify where they grow it, which is now they grow it in public lands in the U.S. too. Um, what did happen is that their weed output was lowered, and they figured out that heroin was the next big thing
Hmm.
after the crackdown on opiates, prescription opiates in the U.S. They saw that they saw an avenue. So a lot of these hillsides are leached over years and years, decades of marijuana growth. So the nutrients are leached from the ground, is what a friend of mine told me about. They went out there and kind of investigated some of these things. So the heroin that is produced in Mexico is not as strong as something you would find probably like somewhere in Afghanistan.
Hmm.
It's not that dark, stinky stuff that'll make you go to space and back. It's lighter brown. It's not as potent. And a way they remedied the fact that it wasn't as strong is that they started lacing it with fentanyl, um,
No.
and that led to a lot of people, ODing, and has led to a lot of people ODing not only in the U.S. but also in Mexico. A lot of things that people don't realize or factor into the equation is that Mexico itself is a giant drug market as well. A lot of the violence you see and murders you see on TV coming out of Mexico or on my feed, because there's not a lot of news coverage of it. A lot of the stuff you see is related to street dealers killing each other in Mexico. Places like Tijuana, places like Sonora. Right now, it's basically one gang fighting the other, and the way they
Hmm.
fight each other is going after the distribution networks locally. Um, so yeah, that they switched to fentanyl, right, and right now you're seeing a shift to they are importing pill presses, some high quality ones, and they're making their own fentanyl fake pain medication pills now
Wow.
that they're showing up in the U.S. That have been showing up in the U.S. for a while now. The quality is going up. But I've had some people that are they know their stuff about pain medication. I put two of these things in a picture. Which one is a real one? Which one isn't? And that's
Big.
that's gonna that's a dangerous thing.
Wow. Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's multi-billion-dollar industry, so they can afford to go buy exactly what the pharmaceutical companies are buying, right?
So if we talk about bobby pins, there's always this image that comes to mind of people trying to break out of handcuffs, pick them open, or use it as a shim to facilitate the release of the handcuff,
Yeah.
or making a modified lockpick set with them, and all this cool stuff. Realistically, out of all the cases I've studied, either people using their own means to get out of custody or utilizing means around their environment to get out of custody. Most people that have gotten out of regular or standard custody, which means police being arrested by the police, or being arrested by people that used to work for the police and now are using their handcuffs to abduct people and stuff like that. Most of those cases, they're not improvising tools to open up their handcuffs behind their back. They're utilizing a handcuff key that they already modified and hid on their person. That's usually what gets the most success and traction when it comes to opening up handcuffs on your person. Now, a handcuff key that you can modify with a few files, with a few iron files, can be turned into something like this guy right here.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's an angle ground on it, and there's a divot on one side and a flat surface on the other side of the ring. This is for you to orientate the key behind your back. And also it allows for you to tie two of these together, or tie a piece of wire or something like that together so you can spin it. When talking about trying to open up a pair of handcuff keys behind your back, a key is going to trump a shim. A modified key is going to trump most things out there. So I'd probably focus on getting if I'm worried about handcuffs, I'd probably focus on getting a metal key and modifying it. So you modify an angle on it so you can get into the keyway at an on angle. You modify the flag on it with a small jeweler saw, so you get a split on it in case you encounter some Yule cuffs or some high security stuff out there. And you put a leverage arm on the key so you can spin it behind your back. Now, one thing people don't realize is that handcuff keys themselves are not made to be utilized by the person that has the handcuffs on.
Right.
So designing a plastic handcuff key to open up handcuffs behind your back that is not only smaller than the standard handcuff key, it's also made of plastic, which is brittle as shit, is probably not. I don't recommend plastic handcuff keys, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Another thing to kind of think about is I had some conversations with people from the FBI's OSAP program about some of the stuff that they would carry, and some of the elements that people tend to figure out and carry. And you go on the gamut, and from them to some of the SF guys that I've gotten to talk to that got exposed to some of the material. And again, I can't talk about all of it, of course. There's a privilege there, but bobby pin is always the one that comes up, right? Carry a bobby pin, and I'm not. And it's always and every now and then there's a bald dude with a bobby pin, concealed somewhere on his person. I said, well, why are you carrying a bobby pin? Like, what's the narrative behind the bobby pin? Oh, the bobby pin's going to be used for this and that, but why are you carrying it? Having spoken to people from everywhere from Cuban military guys to people that work in SF groups all over Europe, the Filipino intelligence services, Indonesian SEALs, all of them know what a bobby pin is used for. Like, it's not a hidden thing or concealed thing.
Yeah,
it's not a secret. If I was going to carry anything of that nature, I'd probably carry the tweezers from a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Just the tweezers from inside of the Swiss Army knife. If nobody's ever kind of tested those out, those are probably the best shimming material on the planet. I mean,
I've used gauge, yeah.
The right gauge, and also they have narrative to them. The narrative of that is to pluck the longest hairs in your body are your nose hairs. Did you know that? Pluck one, it hurts all the way down to the the root chakra.
To your nuts, yeah.
Yeah. But all you have to do to those tweezers is split them open, and now you have the perfect gem.
Yeah.
And it has a narrative. What is that? Pair of tweezers.
You're listening to Can You Survive This podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.